Everest is a dream.
An obsession to reach the top of the world.
Look, it is the highest mountain in the world.
A want to conquer the most difficult peaks.
Everybody knows some people will die.
A madness that caused the world's highest traffic jam.
Their aim is to reach on top of Everest, and they assume that their life will change after that.
Many didn't come back to tell their tale of glory.
A popular pawn shop in Akloj, Solapur, Maharashtra, is what could have been the stable future for the Bhagwan's scion. But then, Ashfaq's son chose to reach for the top of the world. Today, as the father mechanically goes about preparing pan, he and his wife can only lament the fate of their 27-year-old son, who will never come back.
16 तारीख को मेरे को फ़ोन आया मेरे लड़के का। अब 4 दिन ऊपर पर कामयाब होने के बाद में एक 21, 22, 23 को पूरा हुआ उसका। 16 को फ़ोन आया उसका, अम्मी भाई अच्छा है, तुम्हारी बहुत याद आई, अब अम्मी अच्छे हैं क्या, सब अच्छे हैं क्या? नहीं, अल्लाह का करम है, बोला बहुत अच्छा है, मेरी फिटनेस अच्छी है, मेरी तबीयत अच्छी है। आणि मैं 27 तारीख को मेरा ईमान टिकट बुक करो बोला। तो हमको बहुत गारंटी थी कि हमारा बच्चा 4 दिन पहले अच्छी बात करता है ना, ऐसा हुआ कैसा हमारे बच्चे पर।
Nihal Bhagwan died on his way back from the summit of Mount Everest. He was one of the unfortunate climbers who paid with their lives in an attempt to reach the top of the world. In the case of Nihal, his death also seems to have left his parents with a huge debt to pay off. Nihal had taken substantial private loans to fund a spot on the Everest expedition.
उसका इंश्योरेंस कम क्यों हुआ, इसकी जवाबदारी किसकी और इसकी जवाबदारी कौन लेगा? और उसका इंश्योरेंस पूरा होता तो निहाल के लिए जो हमने कर्जा उठाया था 30 से 40 लाख रुपए का, ये लोगों का कर्जा हम किस तरह फेड?
ये अभी जब निहाल का डेथ हुआ है, जब हम उनको पूछ रहे तो वो नहीं बता नहीं पा रहे कि कितना इंश्योरेंस है। हमें जब जानकारी मिली कि 23,000 का इंश्योरेंस है, वो कंपनी ने हमसे नहीं बात की कि इतना इंश्योरेंस है, इतना इंश्योरेंस करना चाहिए, इतना हाई रिस्क पिक होता है एवरेस्ट का। लेकिन वो कंपनी या गार्डियन गिरी प्रेमी इन्होंने हमसे कुछ नहीं बात किया कि इतना इंश्योरेंस करना जरूरी है।
A good weather forecast drove 250 climbers and almost as many Sherpas to set out in a rush to scale the highest peak in the world. The rush on 21st May 2019 apparently led to a bottleneck in that last ridge up to the summit. This photo captured the world's highest traffic jam, but even as it went viral on social media, there were lives being lost. A day later, Aditya Gupta made it to the top of the world.
Everest is a dream, definitely, which somehow is harbored by a lot of people. We've had a Sherpa team which we've used for previous expeditions, and we were comfortable with them. So even though they don't have a big name, we use them. But however, our experience eventually turned out to be pretty sour. So I am not recommending to anybody else to do that. I mean, go with the best names that you can afford. You're probably safer off. But what we discovered there that, okay, Everest will do what it is expected to do, and that is a known risk. But the unknown risk is what the agencies will do, what the Sherpas will do, and they don't. There are a lot of, so don't get me wrong, I mean, Sherpas is the reason that we are even able to climb in the first place. So it's not that they do nothing, but doing the bare minimums and doing service and taking care of you and being very careful about what's going on with you is are two different things.
At 8,848 meters, at the summit of Everest, wind speeds can touch 175 kilometers per hour, and temperatures can dip to -60 degrees Celsius. Add to this the low levels of oxygen, because of the immense height, and possibly the toughest challenge to climbing the tallest peak in the world becomes the weather. This is why there is a rush during a short 10 to 15 day window in May, when the wind drops and the temperature rises to hover in the -20 to -30 range. This year, around 150 climbers managed to summit in each of the good weather days of May 21st and 22nd. But then in the good weather period this year, 18 lives, including 4 Indian ones amongst them, have been lost in the rush to Everest.
I can tell you that at above 4,000 meters, it's difficult to sleep, you don't rest, you lose your appetite, your oxygen level's low, so like even going high is more difficult. But those guys spend months training and stuff. And then you have a weather window and then you still have another 3 days to the top. But I think it's just one of those things where there's so many people who want to do it and who train, and I think maybe like there should be a limit on how many people go up each day, because you only have a limited supply of oxygen, and if you're tired, you're tired. You might make it to the top, but you still have to make it down. That's the problem.
And this is, surprisingly, this is hard work. It's Jungbu.
The video was filmed by British climber Robin Fisher on 16th of May, scaling the western flank of Lhotse mountain, known as the Lhotse Face. He died 9 days later on 25th of May. His partner, Christine Carrier, told news agencies that after Lhotse, Fisher went to Gorakshep to rest before returning to Everest Base Camp on 20th of May. A day later, he left the base camp for Everest summit. The 44-year-old died in the so-called death zone, known for low levels of oxygen during descent from the summit.
चुचुरोमा पुगेर फर्किँदा 150 मिटर जति तल आइसकेपछि अन्दाजी 8700 मिटरको हाइटमा आएपछि उहाँ 81 फेन्टबाट ढल्नुभयो र पानी खुवाउँदाखेरि पनि खानु सक्नु भएन। उहाँलाई सम्बन्धित शेर्पाहरूले सहयोग गरे तर उहाँ उठ्न सक्नु भएन।
Mr. Jangbu Sherpa, he tried to do some kind of CPR and then he tried to wake him up lots, but all the things what he did in that altitude failed, and he declared that he died in that altitude. And he called some help also for the Sherpa who stay at South Cove but doesn't reach on time, and they declare that Robin Fisher is no more on 9:15 a.m. Nepal time.
Unlike Fisher and Nehal Bhagwan, Aditya Gupta lived to tell his tale. Like most other amateurs, Gupta too has no mountaineering training, but only had a dream to scale the highest by the time he was 50. Gupta had made an unsuccessful attempt in 2014 before achieving success 5 years later.
People are there. I met people who said this is our first mountain trip ever, and they were just motivated to say Everest hi karna hai bas. It's just too many suppliers out there, too many suppliers. So if an agency of high repute may say no to somebody, somebody else will say yes, from agencies and Sherpas and the traffic situation, and then what happens within those times. So I think there is a lot else to be done in the world in terms of adventure and travel and everything, and that area and that expedition needs to sort itself out a little bit before it should take on more people.
For decades, expeditions to Everest and Nepal's other 8,000ers, a small group of difficult peaks above 8,000 meters, have been coveted by mountaineers and adventure enthusiasts. Tour operators led by international mountaineers dominated the business to facilitate the dream to summit journey. Avalanches in 2012 and 2014 killed several local Sherpas. Criticism of tour operators profiting at the cost of locals and compromising on safety once again took center stage. Local firms moved in aggressively, offering packages that undercut foreign rivals. A Nepalese company charges around $35,000 for a trek to the summit of Everest, compared to the $70,000 or more charged by a foreign one.
Everest, ऐसा नहीं है कि it has become easy. Those who want to go to Everest, उनको training, basic training is required. जैसे कि high altitude में उनको वहाँ जाने से पहले high altitude में उनको at least you have to at least spend some time. उसके बाद how to use the technical equipments. It's not that कि आपने पैसे दे दिया and then you reach there and then you start climbing. It's not that you are risking with your life. So उससे पहले what you have to do, you have to at least take basic training of all the equipments and then उससे पहले एक छोटा सा peak, at least 5,000, 6,000 वो आप पहले चढ़े, so you get maximum experience. And then Everest has become so commercial that it is not technically so difficult. But like number of people you stuck in a jam, आपका oxygen cylinder खत्म हो जाता है.
Now there's also a trend of smaller agencies coming up, people looking for cheaper options. So at times untrained local guides also end up taking people onto Everest, which also compounds to the problem. The problem with many of the people is who are going, some of them are putting their life savings and their aim is to reach on top of Everest and they assume that their life will change after that. So on the mountain, even if they feel that they're not up to it, they are having problem, but they still push on, and that is where such problems occur. Among Indian mountaineers, as I said, because of lack of money, insurance is considered as the lowest priority. So although there are options available for, say, even to cover casualty evacuation and insuring themselves, due to lack of finances, they may not take the right policy. So in that time, to mount a rescue operation, which is very costly, also becomes a challenge.
Nepal issued permits to 381 climbers for Mount Everest for this season, a season that ended on May 31st. A record 78 Indian climbers were given permits this year compared to 59 in 2018. Indians now make up the largest group of permit holders, having overtaken US citizens this year. And Indian adventure seekers who rely primarily on donations or sponsorship to fund their trip go for local Nepali budget firms to organize their trips. The pitfalls range from a lack of oxygen cylinders to cooks being passed off as experienced guides.
2 days before the summit climb also my Sherpa had already gone ahead and my oxygen cylinder finished all of a sudden. And I was sort of stuck on the mountain. But it was close enough to camp that I could send a message and then they could rush back with another cylinder and within half an hour that problem was fixed. The last day also on the climb when I was coming back from the summit, the last 6 hours or so I was just on my own. My Sherpa had already gone ahead and I was with my last oxygen cylinder.
Aditya Gupta says his oxygen ran out, but he still managed to descend safely. Those who died on Everest this year possibly paid the highest price to summit the world's tallest peak. The underlying reason for the deaths could be that an Everest climb has been so commercialized that one does not even need to be a trained and hardened mountaineer anymore. One needs to have the money to buy the permit and then enough money left over to pay for the expedition organizers to book a berth. Sarah Hillary stood smiling and indulgent as people clicked pictures with her, standing in front of the statue of her father and his climbing partner. It was 29th of May 2019, and exactly 66 years ago to the very day, Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay had become the first to summit Everest. The route that they took over the South Col has become the most popular and possibly the easiest of routes to reach the summit of the world. Till now, about 5,000 people have already scaled the Everest summit. But about 300 have also died on its slopes.
Well, I mean, clearly there's too many people on the mountain, but I think the greatest shame is that more climbers don't climb other mountains. There's so many amazing peaks in Nepal, and they're all very challenging. I think it would be wonderful if people looked to other mountains and weren't so obsessed with Everest. I can understand that they want a supreme challenge, but on the other hand, it would be a much more adventurous and challenging experience if they went to a mountain where there weren't all the ropes and the ladders, and they were actually climbing on their own.
There is always a new record to be set, a new feat to achieve when one reaches the top of the tallest peak in the world. This year on 23rd of May, it was the turn of South African SARRAY Humolo to set a new record, as she became the first black African woman to conquer Mount Everest.
It is a humbling title. It is an opportunity, but I'm very much aware and cognizant of the fact that it comes with a lot of responsibilities. But it's almost, I feel like saying it's damn about time, that we also got a seat at the table. The mountain was first summited in 1953. What have we been waiting for? And I'm hoping that young climbers come after me and just make it the norm.
It may sound easy, but it took SARRAY 4 attempts to stand on top of the world's highest mountain. Her earlier expeditions had been ended by frostbite, avalanches, and even a deadly earthquake.
It's longer than Kilimanjaro. It's a lot colder. There's a lot more logistics. It's not. There's technical parts of it. There's also where you track. It's got a bit of everything, and it just look. It is the highest mountain in the world. That says it all. I think all mountains demand respect. Everest more so than most. I think the fact that it's challenged me and not allowed me passage a few times, 3 times before, twice due to natural disaster and once because of the weather. I think that challenge made it more sweeter, I suppose.
The lure to conquer the indomitable also drove Kalpana Das from Dhenkanal, Odisha, to go back to the Everest this year. The lawyer from Odisha had already made 2 unsuccessful attempts in 2004 and 2006 before finally reaching the peak on 21st of May 2008. 11 years later, at 53 years of age, she was back in 2019 as a member of a 3-women expedition team managed by a local operator. They reached the summit on 23rd May at 12:55 p.m. But on their way back, Kalpana became breathless and died before she could make camp. Kalpana was an experienced climber, yet she failed to survive the ordeal of a budget trek to the top and back. 18-year-old Riza Ali from Kashmir says he was forced to abandon his dream attempt to climb the Everest because his Sherpa guide failed to carry enough oxygen for the summit.
Some people choose the less budget, but there should be a wise decision while making an expedition, a big expedition, because it's the matter of your life. So don't go like a little budget, and instead of going up then you kill yourself. So choose a good budget, and people, I guess the companies also should not be like offer the small prices like those and offer the services we have big services but the small prices, and when people go there they just kill themselves. It's crazy.
52-year-old Dipankar Ghosh scaled the 5th highest peak, the snow-capped Mount Makalu, but he didn't make it back down alive. After being separated from the rest of his team in bad weather, he collapsed and died.
The authorities need to get to understand that we need proper mountaineering experience, proper altitude experience before we allow people onto Everest. If we do that, we will reduce the number of people there by 50% immediately. And the people that are causing the problems are the ones without the experience causing the traffic jams, causing the fatalities, making bad publicity, and so it goes on. So we've been warning the ministry about this for a long, long time, but no one takes any notice.
I think that this is not any such a abnormal case, because Mount Everest itself is adventure, you know. So people are here to enjoy adventure, and they know that this type of accident may happen. But one thing is we are serious about the safety and security of the mountaineers and other tourists in Nepal.
Close to 30 people have died trying to scale the high peaks in Nepal and India this year. Other than the 18 on Mount Everest, a 12-member expedition team went missing on Nanda Devi on the Indian side. 4 were rescued, while 12 others went missing for days before some of their bodies and backpacks were spotted. The world's highest peaks in this region are shrouded by poor weather, and climbing them is always a risky proposition even for experienced climbers. And when to the passion of the professional is added the ambition of the amateur, it could lead to overcrowding disasters, as the Everest has been witnessing this year. There are dead bodies lying on the path to the Everest summit, of those who could not make it back to life. The bodies on Everest usually remain there because the living cannot bring the dead back without running the risk of dying themselves. The dead on Everest remain preserved in the extreme cold. Silent flags to not just the indomitable spirit of human adventure, but also to the madness which drove them there in the first place.